Cronos The New Dawn is a new third-person survival horror game that has you exploring a post-apocalyptic world that was forever ruined by a cataclysmic event called the Change. I have been very curious about Cronos ever since I saw the first trailer, and I got even more interested once I managed to get my hands on their playable demo at Gamescom 2025. I was lucky enough to receive a free copy of the game, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity, but I do want it to be known that this will not impact my thoughts on the game, as my purpose here is to be as honest and fair as possible in my critiques. So let's begin. Cronos takes place in a district of Krakow, Poland called Nowa Huta. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. You take on the role of Traveler ND3576, an enigmatic entity that belongs to an even more enigmatic organization called the Collective. When starting your playthrough, you don't know much about either of them, but what you do know is your vocation, which is your main mission throughout the game. You are here to find and recover key individuals from the past who did not survive the change. You'd think death would impose an impediment to that mission, however, the title has Cronos in the name, so you already know some time manipulation will be involved. Yes, travelers are supposed to find temporal rifts that they can pass through to reach the distant past when the change still hadn't overtaken everything. Once you find your target, you extract them out of there and return to the future. Your main gameplay loop will revolve around traversing the ruined landscape, searching for ammo and scraps while holding off grotesque enemies known as Orphans that want nothing more than to feast on your beautiful fishbowl face. The Orphans do a great job of keeping you on your toes. They are these shambling, twisted monstrosities of flesh, bone, and bile that are tough to take down and require good gunplay and positioning to get past. Their unique mechanic is that any defeated orphan can be devoured and absorbed by the ones that are still living, which is something you clearly want to avoid, as allowing that to happen will greatly empower them. These assimilated traits can be anything from developing armored parts on their body that reflect your bullets to spewing acid attacks from range. Combat is simple enough. Every weapon you gain is some variant of the classics: a handgun, shotgun, or assault rifle. There's a fourth weapon type I found later in the game that did insane damage but has very limited ammo. Speaking of ammo, I want to give props to Bloober Team and how they've balanced the resources they give you and the combat encounters that are meant to drain you of them. I never once felt like I was swimming in ammo or resources, and after every fight it felt like I barely managed to get out of it with just a few extra bullets left for whatever comes next. The resources the game gives you need to be managed well if you want to make them last, otherwise you will quickly find yourself with no way to put up a fight. This is where crafting comes in. You'll be able to find two types of materials in the world: plastic and metal, which will be used to supplement whatever you are lacking. To make sure I wasn't wasting resources, I'd always stock up on these materials, and I'd only craft something once I found more resources than I could carry. That way I could make sure that whatever I crafted would be useful in the moment, and that I would not find myself in a situation where I was forced to leave resources behind. Since I needed to make every shot count, I didn't just have to aim well, I had to make sure that every shot dealt the maximum amount of damage, which meant I needed to make good use of my weapon's charging mechanic. Every weapon you have can be charged up to release a much more damaging shot, but it comes at the cost of more difficult aiming. Not only that, but I needed to learn the timing as well, since you can't just keep the weapon charged forever. Once it reaches its maximum charge limit, that weapon will fire whether you like it or not. With all of these constraints, I could physically feel pain whenever I wasted a shot, knowing that it would cause me some difficulty later down the line. Of course, your guns aren't the only implements you'll have at your disposal. You'll also have a melee attack, which isn't really all that good, but it can be used to create a little bit of space between you and your enemies. But the most useful tools you have are the torch and the pyre. The torch lets you cover the ground around you in burning napalm, burning your enemies and stunning them for a short amount of time. It also has the added benefit of completely burning away corpses of fallen enemies, eliminating the risk of letting them merge. It's a very useful tool in your arsenal that can be crafted, or in case of material shortages, can be gained from a dispenser inside any safe house. The pyre, much like the torch, is another important tool, as it can blow up groups of enemies if positioned properly. It's basically a proximity mine that can be easily launched to deal massive damage. There is no dispenser for this one though, so your only options are to find them in the world or craft them. Any other tools you find in your playthrough will help with utility and world exploration, like an attachment that lets you manipulate time anomalies to create paths, or gravity boots which allow you to climb on walls and float through the air. The world of Cronos is dark, gritty, and devoid of hope, and it shows in both level and sound design. And when I say it's dark, I mean it's dark. There is very little light, and I found myself slowly treading into the darkness so that I don't get ambushed. That also meant that missing resources was that much easier. Every path you travel is ruined, with signs of struggle, death, and decay. Travelers that search every nook and cranny will be rewarded with resources and bits and pieces of lore that will help you put together what actually happened in this world's final moments. I have to say, some of the notes I found were quite chilling, showing moments of regret, frustration, fear, acceptance, and even words of farewell to loved ones before the inevitable end. It did a really good job at sending the message home that you are, for all intents and purposes, stuck in a dead world, the only signs of normal life left being cats. Do yourself a favor and pet the cats. The deeper you go, the more the nightmare starts to reveal itself, with fleshy growths spreading and swallowing up the rooms and hallways, making you feel like you're entering the belly of the beast. The sounds of pulsating biomass, the gurgling of bile, and the choking wails of tortured husks trapped within. All of these make every instinct in my body tell me to turn around and run for the hills. The worst part is that this overgrowth is alive and you can hear it anytime you get close, which further sells the oppressive atmosphere, making you feel like you're surrounded by enemies that could pop out of the overgrowth at any point. Oh shit! While the level design of Cronos is fairly linear, there will be moments where your path will be blocked by puzzles reminiscent of Resident Evil 4. You'll need to look around, find a key item, and return it to the puzzle to continue on your way. At one point, you'll even find a pair of bolt cutters that will open up locked doors. I never removed that thing from my inventory after I got it. And while we're on the subject of inventory, that thing is so small. I get that not allowing you to hoard ammo and resources is part and parcel for creating a good survival horror atmosphere, but even so, I can't recall the last time I had an inventory that was so restrictive. Even when upgraded, the inventory has a maximum of 12 slots, and the bolt cutters will forever block 1, so you've actually got 11. 4 slots are gone thanks to the different ammo types, another 4 are gone thanks to the weapons using those ammo types, and you've got 3 slots left to fit torches, pyres, health consumables, and quest items, of which there are quite a few. Now, obviously that wouldn't be an issue in and of itself, but the problem is that all of the Traveler's weapons are just a single weapon that shapeshifts into another mode of fire, so why exactly do we need individual slots for each weapon type? I'll be honest though, that one didn't bother me as much since I mostly used 2 weapons for the majority of my playthrough and only added a third close to the end of the game. What I did find frustrating and immersion breaking is that I couldn't use health consumables that I found out in the world if my inventory was full. I'm supposed to be this time-traveling entity with a high-tech shape-shifting gun fighting monsters, but I can't use the health pickup on the shelf in front of me unless I put it in my inventory first. Now, I have no clue how to segue into this next part, so I'm just gonna go for it. Throughout my playthrough, I found cores and energy that could be used to upgrade my arsenal. Cores can be used to upgrade your suit, torch, and pyre with things like more inventory space, increasing your maximum HP, or getting an extra torch from crafting. Energy would go to upgrading my weapons, so that would be weapon damage, charge time, reload speed, etc. While they sound interesting initially, I found that upgrading anything other than damage was a bit of a waste, as that would allow me to more efficiently conserve ammo and get more bang for my buck. This also had the unwanted effect of making me never switch to any of the new weapons, as I had already invested way too much in the damage of my old weapons for it to be justifiable. Now, going through and finishing my playthrough of Cronos took me around 15 hours, and for the first half of the game, it hit exactly as it should, with tension filling my entire being whenever I'd enter an orphan nest. But once I got past that 7 or 8 hour mark, that tension had dissolved, as I had gotten used to the enemies coming my way, and the game didn't do anything to spice up the roster. I think that throughout the entire game, there are a total of 3 generic bipedal enemies with their armored or acid-spitting variants that make up the main force of what you'll be fighting. There's also 1 creepy crawly enemy that is capable of hanging from walls, and 1 giant enemy that is much tankier. In terms of boss monsters, it's even worse, as I don't think there are more than 2 types. There was this 1 boss monster that I fought 3 different times, and even though it looked slightly different, you could still tell that it was the same model. Combine this with traps that never change, and that oppressive feeling of being surrounded by unknown threats turned into a tedious annoyance. By the end of the game, I was already used to everything, and it just became a routine, which seems to be in line with how the Traveler feels about her vocation. There was actually one point in the story where, just as I started feeling tired of doing the same thing over and over, the Traveler spoke up to voice my frustration. Regardless, I pushed forward because while I may have gotten used to how to play the game by that point, I was still interested in the mystery suffused within Cronos The New Dawn. I don't plan on spoiling anything, but I found myself drawn to everything that was shown in the story, and the more I uncovered, the more questions I had, so the game did a very good job of keeping me connected to what was going on. Though I will remark upon the missed opportunity of not having more interactions with humans once you reach the past. Even though the signs of the apocalypse are gone, the past feels just just as empty and devoid of human life as the future, since you barely interact with anyone outside of your target. A very particular irony popped up later in the game regarding my feelings towards the monsters merging. Whenever a merge occurs, the monster in question completely ignores you. I found this provided me with a great sense of relief in some aspects, as I knew I was safe during the merging process and that it would even allow me to get a guaranteed shot on the monster while it was doing its thing. Ingenious players could even use corpses as bait to provoke enemy merging near explosive barrels. The last nitpick I have with the game is the lack of a map. With the amount of backtracking this game requires of you, whether to deposit items in the safe room or trying to find that one locked room you missed, it would have been very useful if you had a map to keep track of all of these locations. As it stands, your only option is to keep a mental note of where everything is and hope you won't forget to return later. While I did encounter some friction with Cronos The New Dawn, I overall had a great time with it. The combat sold me on that sense of tension, the story provided me with a lot of intrigue and fed my morbid curiosity, and the ending was satisfying. The game does offer the option of starting a new game plus, but I feel satisfied enough with what I've experienced to not start a second playthrough. But if you're asking for my opinion on whether to give this game a shot or not, I would definitely say go for it if you're a fan of survival horror. The game has a few kinks here and there, but it's still a fun experience that got more than a few good screams out of me. Now, if you've enjoyed my coverage and want to see more, hit that like and subscribe button as it helps out greatly, and also leave a comment with your thoughts on the game. Will you pick this one up or have you already played it? And if you did, what did you think about it? I eagerly await to read your thoughts, but that's going to be it for me. I'll see you all in the next video, and until then, have a good one.